I'd like to welcome the Island Getaways Travel Tribe and my fellow USC alumni to this week's Lunch and Learn webinar on Portugal and Spain. This is the final installment of our 6-part series on river cruising. And I am joined again by Brian Rademacher, who is a business manager for AMA Waterways. You'll be very familiar with him. He's been my co-host here for 6 weeks. And we do have a special VIP guest expert here today, Diane Horan, who has spent her entire adult work career in the travel industry, certainly longer than me, and even Brian perhaps in terms of length of years. He's saying yes. She actually worked as a travel agent at one time, was a travel agency manager, was a sales manager for quite a wide portfolio of different travel companies. She started working with AMA Waterways in 2008 and recently in 2019 was named Director of Travel Partner Networks. So she is a senior executive with AMA, and she is here to take us on a virtual journey based on real possibilities of what you can see, do, and experience in Portugal and Spain based on her own personal travel experiences. So we'll be hearing about it from her perspective, the same way that we did with Todd in Africa and Egypt, and Sebastian for regions of France and also Central Europe along the Danube. So I want us to get started really quickly so we can get to the good stuff. So I'm going to hand this over to Brian Rademacher.
Thank you, Jacinta. Thank you very, very much. And thank you to the folks who are joining us actually for the 6th time. That is incredible. Your patronage is greatly appreciated by Jacinta and certainly Diane and I. And the reason I bring these special presenters on is because they know whereof they speak. In other words, I had not been to Egypt, and I had not been to the Zambezi and on the Africa, or the Zambezi Queen, and on the Chobe, and to have Sebastian as well. So we're going to cap it off with Diane Horan, who is coming to us from Florida today, like Sebastian was last week. And Diane has been to Portugal, so she's going to be the person that's going to speak to that particular program, which is fantastic. So again, thank you. 2 quick reminders. 1, the question box is there for you. Feel free to type in your questions. We'll answer those. And then again, as you know, Jacinta is very good about sending out the video recordings. All right, so you'll have that as well, which we encourage you to share with friends, colleagues, etc. So without further ado, you've seen this image previously and you know it well. And this also, and by the way, in terms of our having already cruised last year, we're actually going to start cruising again this May, here coming up shortly, with the same German tour operator that I've mentioned in last several webinars. They are chartering again this coming May for the German-speaking audience. So we'll be able to put into practice all the things we did last summer from actually July into November. We're going to start again in May. So we're very happy about that. And the cool thing is, obviously, is experience is invaluable, and so we'll be able to bring everything that we learned and put into practice certainly, and do it again this May for the German-speaking audience. And knock wood, let's all knock wood, that we're going to be doing you all soon as well. All right. So now, yes, this is important. You all know that we have different types of protection programs to give you that flexibility and peace of mind that everybody wants in the current environment as it relates to when you're thinking about making a reservation, once again, get travel on into your bailiwick and to look forward to a trip. So we understand that, Jacinta understands that, and so we have different programs, whether it's what's called the Ultimate Cruise Flexibility Plan or the Travel Waiver Plus Plan. These are 2 excellent programs that we've actually extended through the end of April that give you, again, the flexibility and peace of mind that you want and you need. Next, please. There we go. Now I get to have the pleasure of handing this off to Diane Horan from Florida, and our, as I say, our illustrious guest today. And I'm going to let her present on the wonderful itineraries we do in Portugal and Spain. So thank you, Diane. Take it away.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Jacinta, for inviting me to be here because I love this destination. So this is one of my personal favorites, so it's really easy to talk about a place that you fall in love with. I got to go there in 2018, and I had a friend that had gone there years before, and she had told me, Diane, you've got to get on the Douro River. It's my favorite river trip. And I didn't really embrace it until I did it myself. And now I totally can understand it. I want to share with you some of my special stories along the way and show you the images so it will bring this destination to life for you. Just so you are aware, for AMA Waterways, we have 2 itineraries. We have the enticing Douro itinerary, which allows you to come into Portugal early, go to Lisbon for 3 nights, and then get on the river with us. And you're going to go up and you're going to go down the river. So you literally go all the way up, you turn around and come back. That is a good thing because it is so beautiful that everything you see going up, to have the chance to see it one more time coming back is wonderful. So that's the advantage to that itinerary. The other itinerary, called the Flavors of Portugal and Spain, allows you to go again up the river, but this one you'll start in Spain, you go down the river, you only go in one direction, but the advantage here is we go even slower. And we take lots of time because we're only going one direction. And then when we're done in Porto, we'll get off and we'll continue on to Lisbon. So it offers you the opportunity to do land at the beginning and the end. And so I would really highly recommend on this particular river trip to extend because the land is well worth it. So I'll share with you some images now because to me, a picture's worth 1,000 words and an image really tells it all. Lisbon, Portugal. I'm going to go through the enticing Douro trip, which is the one that I took, but I'll tell you a little bit about Spain at the end as well. Lisbon is gorgeous, okay? This is just one image, but everywhere you go in Lisbon, there's beautiful parks, gardens, there's water everywhere surrounding this beautiful destination, and you can just see how colorful it is. And so it's the one, what I'd have to call the biggest city that you'd be visiting during this particular trip. You can see the beautiful tile on the facades of the building. And when you go to Portugal, if you haven't been to Portugal yet, you're going to fall in love with it because it's not like anywhere else you've been in Europe. It's very different. It has a different feel about it, a different ambiance. And even if you decide to add the Spain on the end, Spain is also diversely different than Portugal, although similar, very different. There's a shot of one of the old streetcars there. Brian, don't you live around San Francisco? So maybe this reminds you of home. And you know why you need streetcars like that there? Because just like San Francisco, it actually reminds me of San Francisco now that I think of it, because it's got such steep hills leading from the water up. And the higher you go, the better the view gets, right? This is one of the monuments.
That go there do say it reminds them of San Francisco, the hilly terrain, for sure.
And look at Brian, look at this picture with the bridge. Is that the Golden Gate Bridge of Lisbon, right? That's the very first thing I thought of. When I saw this for the first time, I thought, oh, I feel like I'm in San Francisco. Beautiful monuments everywhere around the city, beautiful historic buildings, well restored. And during the course of your pre-trip with us, you'll be taken to all of these things to experience them. Another thing you're going to love about Portugal, if you like to shop a little bit, if there's any women out there, I know you do, the cork products. Now, this was really eye-opening for me. Everything there is made of cork. Now, if you look at this picture I'm sharing on the left, there's a little mannequin there. Everything she's wearing, other than the red top, is made of cork. Her shoes, her shorts, her jacket, her purse, you name it. And there's a little image of me standing in the street with one of the street vendors. She didn't speak a lick of English, but we still communicated so well. It was so much fun. I was so excited. This was my first day in Portugal, and I just had not even been prepared in advance for how unique and special it would be. And shopping in the streets was a lot of fun. And those are some of the people that I was traveling with on my trip. And I wanted to share this picture because I love it. I love the tile on the pavement there. Everywhere you go in this country, you're going to see this beautiful work. So everything is just at a new level of beauty. One of my favorite things we did on this pre-extension by going into Lisbon and then heading up to the river later was we got to see Sintra. If you've never heard of Sintra, look it up on your Google, okay? It actually is a castle which was the summer palace of the king and the queen of the day. You can see how beautiful it is with the colors. Well, it took my breath away. Although my picture's not as sharp as the last one because that was the professional, this was taken on my iPhone. That was my first image when we were walking up to Sintra, the picture on the right. I literally thought I was going to start crying. It was like the castle I dreamed of as a little girl. This is what a castle should look like. Colorful, beautiful, and very walkable. And then on the left, the shot I took looking down when we were in the castle, looking down at some of the pavements you walk around. It's a place you will never forget. And it truly made me jealous of the kings and queens who this was their summer home, okay?
Well, both Lisbon and Sintra are famous for their architecture.
Yes, you're right. And that's what it's so vivid. And once you get there, it's so obvious how different it is. And then you've got the beautiful pastries that are very famous in the area. Now, honestly, Portugal is a place that you will probably enjoy indulging in some foods you may not eat usually in quantity. I have to say even though I did tons of walking on this trip, I did gain a couple pounds and I loved every one of them. So they were worth it because I ate all of these little things. This pastries we take you to on one of our day tours and we share them with all of our guests. And then these are some of my other interesting shots when we went out for a very known delicacy in Portugal, which is sardines.
Yes.
You are looking at, right? Have you had those, Jacinta?
Yes. Well, also the egg tarts are world famous. Those,
yes, they are.
Custard tarts you just showed, they're actually popular in Brazil and Macau, which are Portuguese related as well. Yeah. And people buy them and take them home in boxes. They're famous.
Like we do Dunkin' Donuts, they go get their, they get their little tarts. Yes, exactly. The same thing. They have their full box.
And the sardines also.
Yeah. Well, now when I was told we're going out to have port wine, which I didn't know port wine also came in different varieties other than red. I'm so used to what we get in the United States primarily. I fell in love with the wine there, and the white wines were absolutely amazing, but the sardines were scrumptious. And I will tell you that really, you can see I'm being silly there, holding the fish up to my mouth. But you literally hold the fish in your hands and you pull the meat off of it. And rather than eat like nachos and chips like we do here, you have your lovely little fish, you peel that off and you eat that while you're drinking your delicious bottle of wine. And it's just, again, something you never forget.
You're obviously having fun. We can see it.
I know. I had no fun on this trip at all. Can you tell? That was from the very beginning. It was so, every day was like this. Then the next day we had codfish. Codfish is very, very popular there. And they all try to outdo each other for their best codfish dish. So if you are a seafood eater, you are especially going to love some of the things in Portugal. Now there's lots of meat there as well, but seafood in particular is very popular.
Well, Portugal is a coastal country on the Atlantic Ocean, and so it makes sense.
It does, exactly. And there's water everywhere, so the fishermen are prevalent. So it's very great and always fresh. So then we are heading up actually to Porto from Lisbon, and we will be stopping or starting our trip on the river in the beautiful town of Porto. Porto was one time actually named the most beautiful river city in Europe in a contest. And I love this image because it brings that reason to life. And this image, if you haven't been there, this is actually taken from a bridge that we can walk to from where we dock the ship. And you literally go, and I literally was standing and I looked down and I could see this. It just brought it right to life. And on the river in Porto, we actually are operating 2 vessels right now. We have the 2 ships. The Amavita was the original one. I went on it, and it was built in 2013, I believe, but it's absolutely beautiful still, just like a new ship. And then the Amadoro, which we introduced 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They're both very similar. Small ships, they hold about 100 people,
yeah,
give or take 2 or 3, okay?
Maximum of 100.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can see they're small and tiny, and it's very deceptive when you see this, because when you get on them, they feel very big. And they're perfect for this destination. And the windows in the rooms that you have, even on the bottom deck, the fixed window staterooms, they're very large. So I really, really enjoyed this particular ship. I love the amount of people. I love the intimacy of it and getting to know everybody as we traveled. And you can just see from this one image here, when the Amavito is leaving Porto, how peaceful it is. And I came home from that feeling like this was, to me, one of the river trips I went on where I truly enjoyed my time on the river. There is more time. These are the local boats, by the way, that you'll see all along the river. I'm going to even show you a picture of one of them coming through the lock with our ship. This is our wonderful crew and staff on board the Amadoro. You can see their smiling faces. And for any of you who have experienced Ama, you know, that is our forte. The crew is what you hear about more than anything. Yes, our ships are beautiful. Yes, the destination is beautiful, but the people make the whole experience total. You know, it's the full package. And, you know, when we hire people for Ama, we always look at their personality first and foremost. And that makes such a difference when you get on board and you truly feel a part of a family. This, I wanted to share with you a couple images of what the staterooms look like so you can get an idea. I know you've had now 6 of these, right, Jacinta? So you've seen our twin balcony design. Well, even on this smaller ship, I want you to notice that we have the same concept there. It's a tiny bit different in that there's the picture window and the step out balcony, but very similar. So they're nice size room, very comfortable. And all of them pretty much look like this with the exception of the suites, which are larger. Brian, aren't they about 300 square feet, the suite on this one, I believe? And then also yeah, I think it's 323, and then the bottom deck has a few of the fixed window, but I just want you all to know I've stayed in the fixed window. It is a really beautiful stateroom as well. The only difference is
that too.
Yeah, and you can't open for fresh air, but it's quite nice. I have 0 complaints about it. The lounge area, beautiful. What was it?
323.
Brian?
You were right. 320 square feet for the.
See, I'm even doing things from memory. There you go.
It's an odd number. It's hard to remember it exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's over 300 square feet.
Yeah, and that the regular staterooms are 225, I believe, or correct? And so they're nice size.
Yes.
The Amadoro lounges, also, you can see how they are. There's lots of separation. So again, in this new world, even if there was a protocol in place, we would not have any problem meeting whatever protocol they throw at us. We're prepared for that. And then this is a nice shot from the upper deck. Leaving Porto, these bridges that you see, that's very common, that particular architecture with the arc underneath. And all these bridges, I don't know if you can notice, but those are people walking over them. When you are in Porto there, the 2 sides of the river are very, very different, almost like in Budapest, where there's Buda and Pest. And so you need to go on both sides. And if you're a walker, it's very easily walkable.
Yeah. And there are 6 bridges. They're famous for their 6 bridges in Porto.
Yes, and all so beautiful at night. I'll show you a picture of one of them I took in the evening. And this is on board the ship. That was actually one of our bartenders, or well, one of the crew members, because they do multiple things, but he is a dedicated bartender. He's making a special drink for that particular night. So the champagne and the wine tasting on board, just like in Europe, we have the sip and sail hour where we give the complimentary drinks before dinner, and the unlimited wines and beers and sodas during all the meal hours, which frankly is most of the time. So, and that picture on the left with the red wine, I actually took that. It's kind of a weird angle, but I like it. That was in one of the wine tastings we were taken to. And on this particular trip, because port wine is a very important, commodity in this part of the world, there will be a lot of different tastings and places you'll be stopping along the way to taste the area. Another one picture I wanted to share with you is this rail station. It really is something else. It's right there in Porto. We do this as part of our walking tour that day. And when you go in there, it literally takes your breath away. These beautiful murals with the blue and white tiles that are, of course, a feature of Portuguese art. And they all tell a story. And it was just probably the prettiest train station I've ever been in my life.
It's considered one of the most beautiful train stations in the world because of those azulejos, those blue ceramic tiles. It is actually on a list. I think it's one of the top 10.
Oh, it should be. Yeah, it is absolutely stunning. And you don't actually want to leave. And here you are in it. And by the way, that picture I showed you, it's empty, right? Well, when I was there, it's a working train station. It's not just a museum. It's a real deal. So people were coming in, catching their trains, going out. And then the tourists like myself, we were going in, taking pictures of everything. And it was just bustling and it's just a really, really wonderful experience. And so then when you leave, this is a great shot from the air. You can see a couple of those bridges that was just mentioned. And also you can see how close the river is on each side. So you can see no matter where we dock, it's going to be a spectacular view and very accessible to walking to anywhere you'd like to in the city. So now we're going to leave because we do a lot of daytime cruising. For me personally, when I go on a river cruise, I know a lot of people think about, well, what excursions are you going to do? Where are you going to go? My favorite part of a river cruise is when we're cruising. I love to grab a glass of wine, sit on the top deck, and just watch the world go by and actually do something that I don't do enough of now, which is called relaxing. And it's just on the Douro River, it's conducive. It's a more peaceful situation of river cruising because there aren't so many bustling towns. You go and you come in a more slower pace. And for seasonality, often I'm asked, when's the best time to go? I will tell you, it's beautiful in the Douro River Valley whenever we go, but in the spring and in the fall, it's a little bit cooler. So it does get quite hot. So if you're more, you guys are primarily from California, so you're more used to the cooler temperature. I'm from Florida, so I can take more heat, but I would say definitely spring and fall would be a preference.
I would agree.
Right? This is probably taken in the middle of summer, this picture, because see all of the, maybe at the beginning of spring, because the vineyards don't look totally grown up yet. So. And this is a picture that I took when I was cruising. I cruised in the end of June, the last week of June. And so it was rather warm. So it was nice sitting on the top deck, cruising down the river. But I wanted you to see the perspective here because see how narrow the river becomes? You feel almost like you're going through a small fjord of Norway's trip. All of these pictures I took as well. And they're just to give you a concept of really what you're seeing as you're cruising. The Douro River Valley is a UNESCO World Heritage Area. And because of that, everything is pristine and untouched. It's left the way as if time stood still. And whenever I would go by and see a scene like this one, where there was a reflection of the mountainous area in the water and the little white house with the red roof, it was something else. And the picture up here in the left corner is of Cesario. He is Portuguese, actually, and he was our cruise manager that week. And it was really nice having Cesario because he's actually he lives in Porto. So when he was doing this trip for us, he took it very personally, and that made it extra special. And then the locks on the Douro, the 5 locks that we go through. I wanted to share these pictures, again, just taken on my iPhone, but look at these locks. If you've been through locks in your life, you have never, ever been through a lock like this, ever. It's so crazy, and they do allow us to go up on the top deck. You'll see in the lower picture, you see the captain's little head sticking out. He actually rolls down the bridge, and then he navigates the ship because we come so close to the edge of the top of the dock, the cement, and that really is one of our guests standing there touching the top of the dock. And then also, remember, I told you I'd share a picture with you of this wonderful little local boat. This one is a motorized one, but there's many of the ones going through the locks with us that are being done just like they do in the old days with the cane or whatever you call it. This is the $1 million UNESCO shot, I think. This gives you a good view of what you're dealing with. On the Douro River, the embankments of the river are very steep. So it's going to be scenic from the minute you enter to the minute you exit. It's all beautiful, and a picture postcard around every corner. But because of that, that's why you're not finding these big bustling cities in here. You're going to find small villages, small towns. But don't worry, we'll still be stopping along the way and seeing them. Now, this particular place, this is a region or a village area. And when you look at this word, this name of this, you want to say, if you're English, like I'm American, you want to say Ragua or something. It's actually pronounced Hagawa, believe it or not. So that's the pronunciation, Hagawa. And this particular area is the gateway to something you might have heard of in your life. Have you ever heard of the wine Mateus? When I was 20 years old, I was drinking the Mateus wine because it was the cheap wine, right? Mateus is still produced there. It's still very, very inexpensive. It's a rosé style wine. But now you know something. See this picture. This is exactly what you see when we go on our tour. And if you look on the bottle of Mateus, that picture is this building. So you will be going there to that building and actually seeing the actual shot of this. So that's just a nice little trivia for all of you who have ever indulged in a glass of Mateus in your life. Another really neat stop that we're going to be going to, again, this is off the river, we take you there by bus, is a place called La Meco. This is where we go to this incredible it's a sanctuary. You know, it is a church. Ironically, the day I was there was Sunday and there was a service going on. We were allowed to go in even and see the service. But in order to get to it, you have 2 choices. You can take the bus to the top. That would be the gentle walking trip. It will drop you right off there, and then you'll be up there at the top here, and you'll look back down over this staircase. Or you can do what I really recommend if you can do it. You can go up I think it's 667 steps from the bottom to the top, because every one of these platforms has one of those beautiful murals made out of the white and the blue tiles. They are stunning, and they all tell a story, and they're completely different. And you can take your time and walk up it and then look back and look down at it. So here's one of the tiles. This isn't the tile on the bridge, just so you know, but I just wanted to show you that's exactly what you'll be seeing. Again, something that's just known, the Porto tiles in that part of the world. And you can see, if you really look at these images, you can tell how they tell a story. Just like stained glass windows would in a church. And then another really beautiful area, Pinhao. Now this is known as the heart of the Douro River. And right now, our ad campaigns, we call ourselves the heart of the rivers, or the heart of the river cruises, right? Because we have heart, and AMA Waterways is all about love and family and all of that. So this part of the Douro is a very special area. It's said to have the most scenic of all the views. And because of that, we're going to be disembarking the ship here and driving up to the top of these embankments. You can see all the terraced vineyards everywhere, and you get the most amazing views. You're going to be driving around beautiful vineyards and through towns and the tiny little villages with the red roofs that are so reminiscent of this part of the world. There's even some ruins of some castles there that we do go visit. So there are things where we will be leaving the river and going by bus. Now, I've heard people say, well, I don't want to go on the river because then I have to get off and go on a bus and go places. Can I just tell you, in Portugal, that is a bonus. You want to do that because you're going to almost be getting the opportunity to have the beauty of the river compiled with the beauty of the land all in one experience. And everywhere you go, I hope you're picking up on this. All these images are so diverse and so different. And so Salamanca is one of the places, this is the longest bus tour that we go on from the river and well worth it. I highly recommend it. When you go to Salamanca, you are getting into Spain. This is the Plaza Mayor, very, very famous. We will all meet there. We will all have guides. Depending on the tour you choose, you can go on a fast trip, a slow trip, whatever you'd like to do, or just leave the tour and go on your own. Just meet back at the Plaza Mayor when we're ready to leave in the buses and we're all good. I myself took part of the tour, and then I left the tour and I went to some of the famous cathedrals there to walk through them. So I do recommend that. But you don't want to miss lunch when you go there with us, because during lunch, we are going to have a flamenco show. And so the flamenco show is very special because flamenco, of course, is the dance of this region. So something you'll really, really enjoy. And then I did mention this before, we are going to be going through the river, up the river, down the river, going off the river, going up into, have these wonderful visits to vineyards and wineries. And this truly is, this is a real picture. We really go to this vineyard, we really stand there, and we have this wonderful wine tasting overlooking it. It's really, really experiences that just you just can't have anywhere else in the world. For me,
well, this river goes through the heart of the wine country in northern Portugal. I mean, you are right there.
It is, you're right. It is the place, you know. And when you look at this picture of the two ladies having this wine tasting, this is done at this particular Quinta de, I can't say this right, de Avasada. And
Avasada.
This was the picture the company gave me. I just want you to see, this is a picture, this is a company sanctioned picture. Here's my picture. This is when we got there. And I wanted to share this picture with you because it's very meaningful. These are still some of the same people, okay? But here's the real deal. They really were there. They were really meeting us when we got there. And that gentleman that you see standing with the blue shirt, we call him Mr. Bean. I don't know if any of you have ever seen that show, Mr. Bean. It's a very funny British comedy, very weird humor. But that gentleman is a spitting image and also has the comic skills of Mr. Bean. In fact, we all thought we were meeting him. He made this day so special. This was my group. This is the group that I was with. There I am sitting down here in the front. And this was an entire charter actually on the Amavida. And this is what you'll do. Even if you all go, you don't have to be all together in a group, but all of the group or anybody who chooses to leave the ship with us that day will get to go and be together and look at the view behind us there from the winery. It was just a spectacular day. We enjoyed incredible meal, incredible entertainment. And then we had to return home, unfortunately, to the beautiful city of Porto, where we ended the trip. Everything we saw on the way up, as I said, we got to see again on the way back. So what I did was I focused on the right side on the way up and I focused on the left side on the way back. And some of the things I had seen, I was so happy to see them again. And then if you decide, you can also do the extension on the trip. It actually, I believe this year begins in Spain. And when you do the Spain extension, it also includes a visit to Toledo. Toledo is known for production of scissors. It's known for incredible monastery and cathedral. But you can just see from the image, it's a gorgeous place to visit and very Spanish. As well as you'll be going to Madrid, Spain. Madrid is a very thriving metropolis, but also has these beautiful historic buildings there that you get to tour. So it's a great combination of the Spain and the Portugal together. So if you have the extra time, I highly recommend it. The good thing about On the Waterways is when you travel with us, is if you do your pre and post trips with us, the cruise manager, if I'm the cruise manager on the ship, I'm also your land manager. So I will be with you. So it's a seamless experience. And I think that's something that really sets us apart from others, that we realize it's nice. If you get to know somebody, you need to stay with them and continue your trip. And so I'm going to end now with this picture. This is a picture just to show you. This is on the back of the ship with the two beautiful seats sitting there. If you see yourself sitting there on the Douro River, then this is something you really want to consider. Or if you see yourself anywhere, actually. And so I'm going to turn it over to Brian and Jacinta now, if you'd like to add a little bit about some of the special offers we have, or if I can, we'll answer some questions at the end.
Yeah, we'll do Q&A.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. And it's always nice.
Wait. Brian, before you, go ahead,
yes.
You talk, and then I'll add something later. Go ahead.
I was going to say that it's always nice to have your personal perspective with your own photos, you know, and be able to tell anecdotal stories like you've just done. It's so much more impactful, frankly. And so thank you so much, Diane, for coming out today and doing this with us. And yeah, interesting about Portugal too, one of the most popular places in the world for people to retire to is down on the southwest coast in the what's called the Algarve region. That actually is a world-class retirement. Brits and Scandinavians and Americans, and so Portugal is very much sort of in vogue these days. So it was wonderful to have you present. Thank you, Diane. Did you want to say something, Jacinta, before I start?
Portugal has emerged as one of the most popular destinations in Europe. I think for a long time it was kind of under the radar, let me say put it that way. And I don't think people realize that there's so much there. I mean, we've seen castles and palaces, great art. Of course, the wine and food is obvious. The wine is obvious. I'm not sure if the food is obvious. You know, once you start getting into it, then there are things that kind of emerge. But I can say pre-COVID, I had difficulty getting space on this itinerary because it was just so popular. And these are smaller vessels with, you know, only 100 maximum. So they did sell out very quickly. And I see interest in this area continuing. And the combination with northern Spain is also very interesting because a lot of people do tend to go to Barcelona or down in Seville, Granada, other areas that are also very famous but very different.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. All right.
The other interesting thing is that, let me just, one more comment. The other interesting thing is that Lisbon as the capital is very interesting. You showed the maritime monument there by the bridge and the water. Remember, the Portuguese were world explorers as seafarers, so it's kind of interesting that you have these river cruises that have developed along the Douro, which are inland waterways, because they were very famous for sailing all over the world and map making.
Indeed, that is absolutely true.
Yeah, and what you said is true about the popularity of Portugal. Pre-COVID, you're right. It would be hard to even get space if you didn't book very far in advance. And I would assume that it will be the case once we're all back cruising again. So it is good to book early. But I will tell you, I had a couple that was on board with us that you mentioned retirement. They said they were buying property there to retire there. They loved it so much. They, you know, and I got that feeling. It's the whole package. It's the beauty, it's the people, it's how warm they are and how fun they are too. So So I'll let you talk
I'm
about the
good.
specials, and then I'll end with one more fun tidbit about the Portuguese.
It's on my list because again, I've not been, and so I've been a lot of places in Europe, but not Portugal or Spain. So knock wood, going soon. So we do have these virtual event offers. We'll just remind you, the one on the left is sort of the compelling one in the sense that it's buy one, get one, 2 for 1. That's right. That's not typical for Mama Waterways to have 2 for 1s just as a general rule of thumb, but we started doing these offers some time ago as just for webinar attendees as a thank you for taking time with us. So this particular one is coming up in October. Now, we're suspended through May at this point in time, and the point that obviously this is in another 7 months, right? So our owner is officially on record, Rudy Schreiner, is thinking we're going to be going back in August, right? And others think it may be earlier, but that's his official stance. So the bottom line is this is a smoking hot deal at 2 for 1 at the end of October, the 24th through the 31st on the Danube. So I want to make mention of that. You do have to reserve by the end of March, right? Which is coming up here soon.
Next
week, I believe it is.
Next Wednesday.
Yes. Next Wednesday, all right. And then if that's not going to work for you, in the upper right, an additional $100 per person savings for anything that you would book, right? Not just the 2 for 1, that's in and of itself, but anything else, again, a thank you for an additional $100 per person webinar attendee special. Now, this is coming to a hard stop March 31. And what I mean by this is the complimentary land programs. And Diane and Jacinta mentioned how important it is to take advantage of these land programs, and particularly because you have sort of your own private concierge with the cruise manager who's with you. Anyway, these are very popular, and we're giving them away on a whole bunch of dates this year and a number of dates next year. So it's primarily tied to France, but you do see there is Barcelona there for 3 nights when you do Essence of Burgundy and Provence. So also Prague for 3 nights on a select number of Danube departures. The value proposition here is off the hook because if you were to pay out of pocket for these, it's up to $2,800, right? And so this has been going on for a while now, but we've been given the word officially that it is ending next week. So take advantage of these complimentary land programs. It has been an absolute home run for us, the company, in terms of the number of people have thought, oh my gosh, that's incredible. And so hopefully you'll be able to vet that with Jacinta and take advantage of this before the end of March. All right.
And Brian,
go ahead.
I had talked to everyone and I had sent everyone an email just to give you an example of how that would apply to the Burgundy Provence trip that we've discussed previously. With the 3 nights land in Barcelona, it's a $2,500 value per couple, including the free land and then the $100 per person additional attendee bonus. So that's quite a chunk. It is something that hasn't been offered previously. We're living in unusual times, so it is an unusual offer and has a high value. On the France itineraries we talked about, also some of the Danube itineraries, which we have talked about. And then I also told you that I had a group date for Burgundy Provence for end of May, and it does apply to that as well. But it is coming to a close here in just under a week, next Wednesday, March 31st.
Yeah, and we can't say that enough because, as Brian said, it is such a great value. If any of those are under consideration, make sure you don't miss out. And then you've got more savings here to talk about.
Yeah, so we have a number of different other tactical offers. We have seen that folks, when they go and make reservations now, they're saying, I'm not going for just a week. I want to do 2 rivers. I want to do back to back. So we've decided to then incorporate the fact that that's happening by offering an extra 10% on the second departure. And again, this is something we're seeing a lot of. So it does say March 31. This one actually just got extended through the end of the year. So it's now December 31. And the cool thing is that you just have in mind sort of a time frame and maybe the river you want to start on. And then we have an algorithm in place with our reservation staff where Jacinta can work with the res staff, just give a time frame, first river you want to start in, and then this algorithm will come up with a whole, believe it or not, we have 17,000. Jacinta's not going to be on the phone that long for 17,000, but we'll go over a number of different programs. So it's kind of cool. So you don't have to sit and study the brochure and think, does this go with that? Does that go with it? No, it's all done by computer, which is really nice. So anyway, take advantage of that. We've mentioned the land program. People are also, because of having missed the Christmas time, the holiday time last Christmas, they're thinking, you know what? We didn't get together with our family and we're going to get together. And so they're planning far in advance for holidays. So for 22, there are are called triple savings programs. This one is also 31. I have a feeling that one will get extended nonetheless. It's not too early to be thinking about that. And then we want to reward our solo travelers by not only offering them the opportunity to sail. Yes, we always do that in the lowest categories, the window view cabins, but they've said, gee, we'd like to take advantage of all those balconies you have. So we have a deal now where a solo traveler can pay just 25% surcharge to cruise in one of those balcony cabins. So that's a nice feature as well. Anything to add on these, Diane, that you want to mention?
Well, the solo traveler, we're going to extend that through May as well. And also, I believe on the fixed window staterooms, the Riverview rooms, as I call them, the supplement is only 10%. So that should be
10%.
That's right. Brian and I are both actually waiting for our marketing team to give us our new promos as of April 1. So, but rest assured, we will always have some special promotional offer. But as Brian said, that land package, we do know for a fact that will unfortunately be going away. So if that one is enticing to you, that's the one you should definitely not miss out on. And so our story continues, right, Brian?
Sure. Next slide.
We're still building new ships over in Europe.
Yes, it does. The story does continue.
Yes, and we've got
3 new ships actually this year that are coming out. Yeah, and so we are definitely looking forward to getting back out there, and it's going to happen. We all know it for sure. And so this would be a good time for you. If you have questions, I'll pull up the question box.
Brian, while you're looking at that, let me just make a couple of other comments, because we have had a 6-part series and a ton of information. We certainly don't expect anyone to remember all of it. I have been sending out email updates each week summarizing the information. But remember, I am available for a personal phone call or a Zoom meeting so we can discuss what you're interested in individually. It doesn't have to be a group date. It can be an individual date. Could be any itinerary that we've talked about, even ones we haven't talked about, although I think we've covered almost everything. So I am available and I'm accessible. So please reach out to me, message, email, phone, doesn't matter, whatever works best for you. But I'm here to support you and get the information to you and help you make decisions. And if you're prepared to snap up one of those deals for late this year or for next year, anytime next year, that's certainly doable.
Absolutely.
Indeed. Thank you, Jacinta. So Cindy, our friend Cindy in Tucson, I'll quickly say this is a compliment for you, Diane. She says, thanks, Diane, for such a beautiful, in capital letters, beautiful presentation. I love your enthusiasm, exclamation points, 3 of them. Maybe a silly question, but are those boats air conditioned? That's not silly.
Oh, absolutely. They would need to be in Portugal for sure. Yes, they are fully air conditioned and working very well. So that's not an issue.
Good deal.
Yeah, very modern.
Yeah, very modern. Anything that I found, I really love the staterooms on board these smaller ships. I just love them, and very, very roomy, spacious, and all the things you know about us with our larger ships in Europe are still able to be done on this smaller ship too. I think I had the best seafood ever of my whole life served to me by the chef on the Amavita. In fact, I wanted to take him home with me. I was like, oh my gosh, I've never tasted fish like this before. It's so good.
I will add that the ships are quite spacious. When you say small river vessels, they are smaller than ocean going vessels, definitely, but these are well designed and quite spacious in terms of the public rooms. We saw the lounge there. The sun deck even has a pool. Many people are surprised to see that there's actually a pool on the top deck. But the size for regular staterooms and suites is quite spacious and compares very well and often much better than ocean cruise vessels, which some lines are notorious for having really, really tiny cabins. And these are all of very good size, no matter what category it is. Even fixed window, they're a good size on the interior.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, because that's sometimes a misnomer. People see them and they say, well, this is going to be tiny. When you get on board, you feel lots of space around you. So it's really, really something. Are there other questions, Brian?
Yes. Do you have a hosted wine program for Portugal? So similar to our other European itineraries where we have a guest winemaker on board, we don't do guest winemaker cruises. I take that back. We do a couple a year. They typically are in November. The reason we don't do as many, I was going to say we don't do any, but we do, is once again, we've talked about the scarcity of space and the ship's only carrying 100 guests. So, but we do have a handful. There will be a winemaker on board for Portugal, right? And Jacinta can tell you which dates those are for both this year and for next year as well. And then, or for Northern France. And so, again, Jacinta can fill you in on those departures in Northern France where there will be guest winemakers on. And those are very, very popular. Obviously, the guest winemakers being able to talk about the local wines that you're enjoying on board. And so, yes, Jacinta will be happy to fill you in, Carol, on those particular departures that we're known for sure. All right. Let's see if there are any other questions. I think, okay, so this
Diane, you had one more comment. Oops, sorry.
I did.
Yeah.
I have to tell you one more thing that I meant to tell you. I have one more little story I have to tell you because it's really cute and it'll make you understand why I fell in love with the Portugal and the Portuguese people in general. They were so much fun. I happened to be there over June the 24th, which happens to be St. John's the Baptist Day. It's a huge holiday in Portugal. You might want to read about it. But what I didn't know was when I went there that it's kind of like our 4th of July. It's like that. It's a huge holiday. There's festivals everywhere. But they have this very weird tradition that they do, that they walk around with this. Can you see this? It's a hammer, okay? They hit you on the head. And can you hear it? It looks like a child's toy. And I was walking around seeing people walking with these hammers everywhere and thinking, now that is a very odd thing. And then I noticed they were hitting people. It's kind of like almost like a mating ritual. And they go around and they go after, if there's somebody that they like or they don't like, depending on how hard they hit you, to get your attention. So it's like an attention getter. But this is just an example of things you only know when you go on a trip with us. And also another thing for I wanted to tell you, the entertainment there was great. I didn't mention it before, but we bring on local entertainers and they were really quite spectacular, the ones we had on the sailing I was on. And even the main entertainer, we had somebody that was on with us all week. He was both a pianist, in other words, he played the piano and he was a magician. And he was mesmerizing because he'd play the piano and then he'd do a trick. And all the guests on board just loved it. So I just wanted to add that because that was, it's about the food, the wine, the destination, the crew, but the entertainment. It's all one big package. So I do hope you join us. Whatever river you come with us, we'd love to have you. And I know you'll enjoy it. And in particular, if you have any more questions about the Douro, I'm sure if you ask Jacinta, we'll get her all her answers. And I really appreciate your.
I'm just glad my wife doesn't have one of those hammers. I'm really glad that.
I'm sending this to you. I'll send this to her. And no.
Please don't.
They are fun though. I just fun things like that you learn when you travel.
Yeah, there's some things you just have to discover along the way that no one can even tell you about, and it's about your firsthand experience. I mean, we've tried to share as much information each week as possible, but I mean, it's impossible to cover everything. You have to really go and have that personal experience
Right.
yourself and make your own memories.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it's about. But I would like to thank, unless there's any other comments or questions, I would like to thank everyone that has been attending with us for the last 6 weeks, either live or the recordings. And you all know how to get in touch with me. I'm here, so you know, feel free to contact me, and we'll look forward to traveling very soon. I think, you know, the green light is coming.
It's coming.
You know, we're all waiting impatiently, but we're going to go from virtual to real. It's going to become real.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you on the
like
rivers
to say-
very, very soon.
Thank you so much, Diane,
Yeah,
for sharing your personal travel experiences and your personal photos. It was a really nice touch to have that, and I'm sure that they bring back a lot of the sensory details for you. I know that my photos do as well.
Yeah.
I have traveled to Portugal and Spain quite extensively, not as recently as you, but I've also looked at this trip longingly, the Portugal with the Spain extension. But I know that that space is hard to get, so it's somewhere on my list as well. I've got a long list as well as Brian. It keeps growing. But it's all good.
We all
We'll
do.
be there when you're ready. When you're ready, we're ready.
I know you will. So thank you. We are almost at our 1 o'clock time frame. So I'll say thank you to Brian for being with me for the duration. Thank you, Diane, for being our special guest today. Thank you to all of the attendees for your time and attention and interest.
Good deal. Thanks, everybody. Be well.
Bye. See you on the
Be out
river.
there.
Bye.
Bye-bye.